I'm Larry Curtis, campaign manager for Gary Keith Sr., along with Ed Miller, a part-time state employee working for State Senator Michael Brady, and also radio host of Stand Up Strong. Carl Pride, media center director of Brockton Cable Access, and Susanna Sudborough, a reporter with the Enterprise. Together, our group has worked hard to bring to you, the voters of the City of Brockton, this candidates forum. Some individuals have expressed both Ed's and my involvement in the interview process due to political association with some of the candidates for office. Together, we are here to ensure you that a balanced and transparent process has taken place during the interviews conducted on October 5th, 6th, and 7th. All candidates have had the right of not being interviewed by any one of us if they believed a conflict existed. I am happy to report that all scheduled interviews were conducted without any candidates' objections. This forum would not have taken place without the collaborative efforts of our volunteers, the Enterprise, Brockton Cable Access, and our candidates. Remember to get out and vote on Tuesday, November 2nd. It's an important election for the City of Brockton. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the Candidates Forum 2021. My name is Ed Miller, and I will be your host today. And we are pleased to have in the studio candidate for school committee.
Correct. Ward 1.
Kathleen, in Ward 1, I apologize. Kathleen Ehlers. And thank you for coming down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good to be here.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would be a good choice for Ward 1 school committee.
Well, born and raised in Brockton. My grandparents came here from Ireland to Ellis Island. Both of them landed in Brockton. My mom and dad brought us up in Brockton to be proud of the heritage in Brockton. We all went to school here. There's 5 of us, and we all stayed here. And so at this point in my life, after educating 4 children of my own, I feel I'd like to take my experience working in education for 30 years and apply it to the community of Brockton, where I can give it 150%. The timing for me is right now. A lot of people have asked me, why haven't you done it sooner? Well, I was really busy earlier and didn't have the experience that I have now, and so I feel now is a good time for me to be able to apply it and help.
Okay. And now the first question I'd like to ask is, now what do you believe is the most important issue facing the school committee today?
That's kind of a tough one. I think one of the bigger questions that everyone's asking or concerned about is the busing. But if you're asking me personally, I think one of the things that I am most focused on is making sure or watching what we do with the School Opportunity Act monies that we're able to acquire. The past administration did a great job of being able to get the SOA. Now, as long as we keep the monies where they are and we stay on track, we'll be able to do all the things that we've promised we can do. Hire all the additional staff members. We've got 75 people in this new plan for this year in the budget to be able to go into the school systems. And I think one of the most important things after 18 to 24 months in COVID is addressing the COVID slide and applying more mental health and resources to those students that actually need them to get caught up.
And what recommendations do you have for the school committee to move forward?
I would say collaboration. One of the things that I've noticed is that this is a really, for the most part, a very collaborative group. And I'll give you an example. It wasn't too long ago that Joyce Azak had sent out a red flag about helping to stuff backpacks, and we all got together, and I loved being part of that effort. I loved being part of doing something tangible and then being able to hand it out to every single student at West Junior High, which is where I ended up being stationed. And so being part of those types of community events and collaborating with other school members to make sure that every ward is accounted for, not just Ward 1, I think working together on those types of things is going to be very important so that the whole city gets the benefit of all the resources that we have.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the COVID slide and the issue that the school department is dealing with COVID. Do you have an opinion, and do you see of the impact of the school administration adopting the mask mandate that they are going into this year?
Can you repeat this question one more time? Do I have an opinion?
Well, do you agree with the school administration's adoption of the mask mandate policy?
I do. Okay. I agree with the mask mandate policy. Right now, none of our children are vaccinated. They aren't, and we're not at a point that we can safely vaccinate them until we get the FDA approval. And so one of the challenges right now is, we have to focus on being socially distant in the classroom, but until we have those vaccinations for those kids, I personally feel that the mask mandate is going to keep everybody healthier.
And what are your feelings on standardized testing?
I don't feel as if standardized testing should be a blanket rule. I feel that there are different student profiles out there where some students do fine with standardized testing and other students don't do well. They're just not test takers. Test anxiety is a real thing. And so sometimes I feel as if we have to take that into consideration to truly see what that student is capable of. And putting them in a room next to everyone else in a very prescriptive way that they don't respond to is not going to give us the results of what they've really been able to retain in that classroom with that teacher.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that you feel students will benefit going with other avenues?
They would benefit because if you had a student that basically is more of an auditory learner, and we decided to not necessarily give them the test to read it, but we spoke the test to them, their response to those answers could be completely different than if we put the pressure on them to sit down and try to read it and write out their answers. The stress level, depending on what age they're in, is palatable. At one point I heard that a senior in high school stress level is the equivalent of a stockbroker. And I started thinking about it, and I said, between applying, getting the best grades they can, applying for schools, like all of the things that are on their plates, sports, graduating, getting into good schools, like it's very stressful for a young mind and a young maturity.
Mm-hmm. Now, since its previous height nearly a decade ago, as a recognized leader in the closing achievement gap, Brockton has experienced a continual decline on the academic outcome according to the most recent state data. With 10 of its 21 schools now rank in the lowest 10% of Massachusetts schools. What are some of the recommendations you have in assisting the turnaround in this decline?
I would have to say, I hope that I'll be an integral part of helping to bridge that gap. I think one of the things that has been most helpful and that we'll be able to see a difference in is the budget in terms of the individuals that are going to be applied to trying to overcome that gap. And when I say that, I mean right now, the previous administration, everything up to and including our substitute line item is properly funded for the first time in 10 years. We just haven't had the money in the budget for the past 10 years to be able to bridge those gaps. And now that we do have the money, we'll be able to apply the resources where needed.
Okay. Now, as a ward school member, if you are elected, you'll be required to vote on certain issues in support of the overall education system. How would you vote on a specific item that's cast in front of you that's not, let's say, favorable to your ward?
I think the voting, and it's funny, I brought this question up actually. I spent some time with the superintendent, making sure that there's, it's equitable across the board. And so, because I anticipated something like this, I honestly believe that it has to be for the greater good. It doesn't have to be about me. It has to be about all. What is in the best interest of all Brockton Public School children, not just Ward 1 kids.
Okay, well, thank you for coming down today.
You're welcome. Thank you for
I
having
wish
me.
you best of luck. Now, you have a couple of minutes. Please, talk to the your Ward 1 that you're running for, and please inform them why you think you would be the best candidate to vote for.
Well, okay, so I think probably because of the fact that, number one, I have over 30 years experience working in education. I have experience working with all student profiles, both in a for-profit environment and a nonprofit environment. And like I was telling Mr. Miller earlier, I spent some time in an immigrant and refugee resettlement organization so that I could better understand what the educational barriers are for our immigrant students. And so I really feel with all of that knowledge, I'm going to be able to come in and assist in some of the things that we've been challenged with over the past years. But I'm also able to do that without having to worry about my own children, because they're grown now and I have the time to give 150% to this, which is what my goal is. So Brockton is my city and I am proud to be a Brocktonian. And so this for me is exciting and something that I genuinely want to do and am excited to be part of.
Okay. Well, Kathleen Ayers, right?
Yep, Ehlers.
Thank you. Who is running for Ward 1 School
Yes.
Committee.
Yes.
Thank you for the time that you've given us today. And thank you for sharing your opinions and views to help educate our Ward 1 and our city. And remember, don't forget, November 2nd is Election Day. Please take the time and vote for the candidates you feel will do best in those certain positions. And remember, that's how we run our city and state and national government, by you going out and voting. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.